What's up, everyone? I'm Sophia Pasternak, an award-winning author and a mental health professional, and this channel is all about where writing meets psychology. I also post videos about my author journey and baking bread and outdoorsy stuff. If you're new here, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out when I post new stuff. Also, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up so that I know to make more like it. So, the age-old writing question: are you a plotter or a pantser? Comment below, tell me your favorite way to write your stories, whether you need a really detailed outline or whether you just like to fly by the seat of your pants. Me, personally, I used to be a hardcore pantser because I could not plan out a story because it took all the fun away. What's the fun in writing a story when I already know all the stuff that's going to happen? But you know what? I never finished anything. I would get into the middle and I would get distracted and it was hard and I'd get bored and I would just wander off. And so I had all of these half-finished manuscripts where right around the same time in the story, I would just lose interest and wander away. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is not great. I'm never going to be a real author and I'm never going to get published and I'm never going to get where I want to be if I can't figure out how to finish this dang draft. But I also really didn't like all the plotting and outlining strategies that I heard of, and I just felt like I don't know what to do. And then 10 years ago in 2010, at a writing conference that's in Provo, Utah, author Dan Wells, and I will link his videos up here, author Dan Wells gave a presentation there about the 7-point plot, outlining strategy, structure, etc. And that just clicked with me, and it was brilliant, and I was so sold to it, and I loved it, and I have used it with every single story ever since, and finished a ton of books, and it has made it possible for me to kind of bridge that really tough middle part and get into the end where all the exciting stuff is happening. So I want to share that with all of you, not only with his video that was up there a minute ago, but also with kind of my take on it, because I altered it a tiny bit, not a ton. And then if you are paying attention to my character therapy series at all, you will see that I incorporate my schema therapy techniques in with the 7-point plot structure. So what's good about outlining anyway? Outlines are awesome because it's kind of like taking a road trip with a map. And I'm not talking about like a map that's on your phone, like an app that tells you turn here, turn there. That is absolutely not what I'm talking about. I am talking about those old school, big, huge, giant maps you get at gas stations where you could unfold it and it showed like everything in detail down to like little back roads and stuff. I loved those when I was a kid before we had smartphones because I'm old. And whenever my family went on road trips, I always wanted to be the one with the map telling us where to go and figuring out where we were at. And we would always have road trips kind of in the fashion of we have point A where we're starting and point B where we need to get, but where are we going to go in between? Like, where are we going to turn and what are we going to see and what restaurants we're going to go to? And like, oh, there's a roadside gator stand because I grew up in Florida and they have those there. And so you give yourself the option to stop and see all these extra sights and kind of go on little adventures. But then you always have this final destination in mind. It's over there. We need to get there eventually. Let's see all this cool stuff on the way, though. So that's how I outline. And that's how the 7-point outline kind of helped me get my ducks in a row, get my road trip together, because I still had that freedom to explore all the cool stuff in between point A and point B, but I did know where point B was and I knew the general direction I needed to be moving. Okie dokie. So in a nutshell, the 7-point plot outline has 7 points, which are the hook, plot turn 1, pinch 1, your midpoint, pinch 2, plot turn 2, and your resolution. So those are your 7. Those are your 7 right there. Now, what do we do with those? What do those mean? What happens at those points? We'll get into that in a second. Let's start, but not at the beginning. I start my stories at the end. Where do I need to go? I need to go to New York City. I live in Utah, so I need to go to New York City. That's my destination. I need to go, generally speaking, east, and not too far north, not too far south, east in general. Okay, that's my ending. And the way that I plot my books with my characters is through emotional arcs. And so I know how I want my character to end the story emotionally. I want them to be, more realized as a person, get past whatever schema they started with, and they're going to be happy. They're going to be satisfied in their role as a baker, or they're going to be in love, or they're going to, be the responsible and, magnanimous leader of a nation or something like that. So you start out, or you begin your plot planning with the end of the story. My pantsers out there, don't get scared of having to know the ending. You don't need to know exactly what happens. And you know what? You don't even know how to get there. Know vaguely that you want your character to be happy. You want your character to be devastated. You want your character to be in love. You want them to have gotten the guy or girl. You want them to be on their way to a new planet. Whatever you kind of in general want them to be doing, just write that down, because step 2 is going back to the hook, the start of the story. Why should the reader care? And the start of the story is going to be the opposite of the ending. And in general, I'm going to be speaking in terms of a positive character change arc here, but you can also do this with the negative change arc. So if your negative change arc ends with your character becoming evil, you start them out as being very good. Whereas the opposite is true. If you want your character to end being very good, you start them out being kind of a weenie, kind of a weenie butt. The opposite state as the end is how you want to start, because you got to know where you're starting your road trip from. If you're going to get to the destination, you got to know how much gas you're going to need. You got to know if you're going to stop at what roadside stand. I'm driving from Utah I'm driving from Utah to New York City. I'm probably not going to hit too many roadside gator stands, because those aren't really that common outside of Florida, because Floridians are weirdos. You kind of want to know-ish where you're going to be at, so that you can make things happen that kind of make sense. Now we are going to stop at the midpoint. So the midpoint of your story is that part in your story where your character begins to move from their starting state to their ending state. This is that conscious change. And the way that Dan Wells describes it in his 7-point plot videos is when you move from reaction into action. So your character stops reacting to things, and now they take it upon themselves to, you know what, I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to go out and I'm going to make things happen rather than let things happen to me. And the midpoint is important for pacing as well, because if you wait too long to switch your character from reaction into action, then your readers are going to get annoyed, because they're going to feel like your character is very passive and just lets things happen and isn't an active part of their own story. But if you move it too early, then you're going to have a really long second half where it's going to start to kind of drag, and your readers are probably going to get bored with all the stuff that's happening after that. So you want to make sure that the midpoint is approximately in the middle-ish, 50-ish% done with the story. Alrighty, now we're moving on to our plot turns. And if you are familiar at all with the 3-act structure, and if you write in 3-act structure at all, the plot turns are they bookend the Act 2 area. So plot turn 1 is going to take your character out of Act 1 into Act 2. They're going to take them out of their old normal world into the new world, and they hate it. It sucks. Ugh, it's awful. But the plot turn is that point of no return. You cannot go back now. You have been moved out of your old world. You're no longer in your village. You're no longer at home. You are no longer in this safe place where your lie made sense. You are now in the new world where your lie is being challenged every single day. And plot turn 2 is the start of Act 3. We have moved out of Act 2 into Act 3. Plot turn 2, aka the dark night of the soul, the character's lowest point, everything is terrible, etc. The antagonist has just shown up and just wrecked all of the characters' plans, friends, family, everything. The character is at their lowest point at plot turn 2. But plot turn 2 is also the point in the story where your character discovers that inner strength, or the magic sword, or a piece of technology, or something like that, that enables them to move into what will become the resolution and defeat that antagonistic force. So While plot turn 2 is a really terrible, terrible place for your character to be, this rock bottom has allowed them to strip away all the unimportant stuff and realize that they have the important thing that they needed all along. Okay, so we've got our hook, our resolution, and our midpoint, and our 2 plot turns. And now the other 2 pieces of the puzzle that we need are the pinches. So the pinches are related to our antagonist or the antagonistic force. In some stories, there's no person who's the antagonist. It's the weather, or it's the character's own doubts about themselves, or it's something like that. So the antagonist is going to show up in these pinches, and it's going to make life terrible. We're going to squeeze your character. We're going to make them suffer. So in pinch 1, the antagonist shows up for the first time and is just introduced, and we get to see kind of that they're the big bad, and that things suck. So the character at pinch 1 has just been thrown into their new world, and they're trying to like figure out what's going on, and then this jerk shows up and knocks over all their stuff and laughs and walks off, and they're like, what the heck? So that's your antagonist. That's pinch 1. Pinch 2 are the jaws of defeat. This is the antagonist is back again. It's 100 times worse than it was the first time. They are winning, and they're gonna win, and they just beat your protagonist down, and everything is terrible. And this leads into plot turn 2, which is that dark night of the soul, the character's lowest point, but also the point in which they get what they need to defeat the antagonist. All right, our 7 points, there they all are. The hook, which is why we care, also how your character starts. Plot turn 1, which is moving your character out of their old, normal, comfortable world into the new world, which sucks butt and they hate it. That point of no return, taking them from Act 1 into Act 2. Then we have pinch 1, which is introducing the antagonist. The midpoint, where your character starts to move from reaction into being a proactive piece of their own story. Pinch 2, which is the antagonist showing back up, setting fire to everything your character loves and destroying everything, leading into plot turn 2, the dark night of the soul, the character's lowest point, but also the point in which they find that thing that they need to defeat the antagonist, which is what happens to lead them into the resolution, which is the point of the story, why we are reading. Your thematic promise comes out and is answered for the resolution, and we are done. Bows tied up. Off we go. All right, I hope that helped out. I hope that you got some really good information that you hadn't had before, and I hope you enjoyed my video and Dan Wills's video. Another really good place for character development and arcs and outlines and that kind of thing is KM Whelan's website, helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. I will link it down in the description below. Also, if you like fillable PDFs and worksheets and that kind of thing, I have a whole ton on my Patreon that if you go and you become a patron of mine, you'll get downloads available for you that you can use with my YouTube videos in order to get the most out of both. Again, if you're not subscribed, please do so you're notified as soon as I post new content. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up so that I know to make more like it in the future. Also, if you have a friend who's a writer who you think might really jive with this, please share it with them so that we can spread the word on how to outline and not pull your hair out while you're doing it. And that's all for me. That's my video. I hope you have a great day. See you later.